Good morning and welcome to what is going to be very interesting information about keeping your mid to small businesses and even larger businesses safe in this increasingly hostile environment when it comes to cybersecurity. With the war in Ukraine, Russia, China, North Korea, other malevolent governments around the world, it has unleashed more than ever dangers to businesses throughout the world, especially here in the United States, because they're big fat targets, for having to protect their information themselves and their customers. And we've assembled a panel here to talk about this today. I've known a couple of these panelists for a very long time. James Kennedy and I have been doing business together for almost 25 years. Tim Kolotz is my personal business insurance guy and has been for a number of years. And I was introduced by them to the team at Blueshift Cybersecurity, who I have found to be full of really important information. Greg Skasny is with us. He's the Chief Technology Officer for Blueshift. He's got more than 20 years of experience in IT and information security. He's a graduate of Purdue University, bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and technology, focusing on networking, security, and communications. Then also from Blueshift, we have Steve Nickel, who's worked as a sales and marketing executive in several technology companies, including Hewlett-Packard, Western Digital, SystemSoft. He co-founded PumaTech IntelliSync with Brad Rowan, helped lead the company through a successful IPO in '96. He has his BA from Princeton. James Kennedy is the founder and chief executive officer of both Kennedy Marketing Group, Inc. and Kennedy Intelligent Data. He's located in San Clemente in Orange County. Mr. Kennedy's 30 plus years of accomplishments in data-driven marketing have been highlighted in publications such as the LA Times, Orange County Business Journal, and Automotive News. And last but definitely not least, Tim Kolotz, the one with the Fu Manchu thing going on. He's a property and casualty broker with Hub International. Tim's specialties are workers' compensation, high-risk property and general liability operations, directors and officers, employment practices and management, and professional liability protection for various industries, including but not limited to construction, agriculture, manufacturing, nonprofits, financial institutions are also intertwined. Commercial risk is his sole focus. And by the way, he's a heck of a soccer referee. All right, those are the introductions. I am going to mute myself and let the professionals take over from here. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Lou. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Lou.
All right, who wants to take the lead here?
Well, I'm going to start off because I want to be brief. I think it's important for me to, allow people to know that I am a small business located in Southern California. The reason I'm on this call today is because I realized the need for protection from cyber attacks because of the nature of what's happening in the world today. I do business with predominantly retail automotive dealerships throughout the country, and we extract very sensitive data from them. And it's really important for us to understand that we have to protect that data at all costs. And because I saw the writing on the wall with the cyber scenario taking place in the world, I started to seek out, the best and most reliable source of protection that there is. And that is the reason why I'm on this call today, to introduce you to Blueshift. I find them to be, without question, the most credible organization that you could want to, be protected by. They provide Fortune 500 company protection at a small to medium-sized business budget. And so that's the reason I'm on this call. I can also provide the opportunity for anyone who's interested, the ability to get connected with them. So I'm going to now turn it over to either Tim or to Greg. Tim, if you wanted to say anything, and then I think Greg should have the lion's share of the opportunity here.
Sounds great. I'll pile in, cut you off at the knees, Greg. So again, as Lou's indicated, commercial risks are my only focus. I do not deal with any of the other lines of coverage. So it's for the small and mid-sized business is what our focus is. Anybody up to about 100 million in sales, all the way down to about 3 to 4 million in revenues on an annual basis. And my biggest thing is that we focus on that cyber liability end of it. And what that allows us to do is, so if everything goes awry, or you've just had a employee just made a mistake, right? In that social engineering aspect of it now, where somebody fraudulently does an email or something like that, that you don't go out of business for it, or that you're still able to make payroll at the end of the week, because what we're providing is an insurance program catered to you. Everyone is different, but it's specific to your company, so that when something bad happen or something stupid happens, that we've insured the stupid out of that, and so that you can stay in business. About 5 years ago, you couldn't even buy a social engineering product. So if any one of your employees allowed the bad hat to steal some of your money, you were out of luck and you couldn't have any coverage for it. Now we can get it on a standard policy. We can get up to $250,000. So those are the types of things that I'm providing for our clientele. And on a daily basis, we're having questions about cyber and how to protect yourself and what exactly you do and don't need from that aspect. And with that, I'll turn it over to Greg.
I think, Greg, your mic is muted.
Nope, we still can't hear you, Greg.
Standing by. By the way, I like that very much, Tim. We're going to insure the stupid out of the stupid. That's very nice.
Yeah,
I see it. I definitely see it coming through Zoom.
Oh, there you are. You're there, Greg, now. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I wonder if they can enable screen sharing. So I need to share a slideshow, but it's telling me
we'll see what we can do here right now.
No worries.
Stand by.
Standing by. But while I'm standing by, while they're doing that, I guess I can just tell you, I skip over some of the quick introductions that I'll do in the beginning of my slide, just so you guys know who I am. He talked about, I'm the co-founder and chief technology officer of Blueshift. I spent most of my time prior to Blueshift doing offensive cybersecurity. So the white hat hackers, even though mine was a little bit dirty, I did what we call red teaming and penetration testing and exploit development and those sorts of things.
Screen sharing enabled, by the way.
Awesome. I did that for all kinds of people. So my roots are in the offensive world, but if you don't understand the teeth that offensive things can do, you can't plan a good defense. I teach at some cool places like NASA and for the IRS and for state law enforcement agencies and other places I can't talk about. But I've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm very jaded, and you probably hear that come out when I talk. So just a little bit about Blueshift. We are a defensive company, right? So we're here to help detect and respond to things that we see in our customers. Our platform is what we call SOC as a service, Security Operations Center as a service. So we provide this monitoring across all of organizations, across all their infrastructure, across all their employees to look for and respond to cyber events as they happen. So I'll talk about that. And so everything you see in here, since I'm an ex-red team guy, I steal all my pictures. So obviously I'm not a lawyer, so don't take legal advice from me. I'm not a doctor. Don't take medical advice from me. Don't take any advice from me that's not cyber related, because it's the only thing I really know well. So we'll kind of jump in. One of the things people think, and I talk about a lot, is the prevention versus detection and response. And people think that there's something they can buy. They always think there's something that can prevent them from having a cyber attack or having a successful operation done against them. And that's really a falsehood. And the way I'm going to prove that is address the elephant in the room, right? So if you guys ever seen Zootopia, one of the things that every data breach, every ransomware event, everything you've ever heard on in the news, in a podcast, in a webinar, wherever, every cyber attack you've ever heard of, that cyber attack bypassed those protective technologies, those preventative technologies. If they didn't do that, you wouldn't hear about them because they would have been prevented. So this goes to show that, listen, like, while you need to have some basic cyber hygiene, you need to put some effort into some prevention just to keep the easy stuff out. If you put all your eggs and your money into that prevention basket, you're going to end up losing, right? And that's the problem, because that's what happens every day, and it's happening more and more. Again, you're hear more about cyber attacks every day. This is the problem, is that we're relying too much on things to prevent versus looking for things and trying to respond and taking care of things sooner, which is kind of what we do. In addition to, if you rely on things that are preventative in nature, you end up falling victim to some things like these. And I don't expect people to know what all these are, because I'm going to explain it. But these are what's called O-days, or 0 days. Again, it's a term we use in the InfoSec, but long story short, these are vulnerabilities in software that had no patch at the time, that were being exploited by threat actors in the wild. Hackers in the wild are exploiting these. 4 years ago, maybe even 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't see the plethora of 0 days that we see today. 0 days were usually reserved for very large corporations, government, nation states. They're expensive. They're valuable. I mean, governments and other scumbag organizations, not think of the government's scumbag, but there are scumbag organizations that will buy 0 days for a lot of money, up to $2.5 million, I think, somewhere for offering for some what we call 0-click 0 days. So they're very, very expensive. But what has happened, there's this kind of shift that's happened, that these are starting to be exploited in the wild against all sorts of businesses. And in 2021, we saw a huge increase in the amount of O-days used against just normal everyday businesses. And 2022, right now, that trajectory is about the same or a little bit greater than what happened in 2021. So if you try to do a preventative approach to this, you won't even see these things. It's just going to happen, and you're not going to know until something bad happens, right? So you got to think a little bit more outside the box. So one thing people need to realize, and what we did when we were pretending to be real adversaries or real hackers, is that as an attacker, me or my team, we only have to be right one time. And you as a business, you as a defender, you have to be right 100% of the time if you're taking that preventative model. And the problem is, you can't be perfect. It's not possible. So right off the bat, you lose, right? You're already on the losing end of that equation. It's like me trying to be the guy in the plane, Mike Tyson pummeling, right? So I'm not going to win that fight. So we have to figure out a way, find where our tactical advantages are as defenders, as people who don't want these hackers in our systems, and play to those advantages, right? So we're going to find the catch to that phrase of why, how we can turn these kind of tables. So what we come up with, and what I used to tell people a long time ago, I said, listen, once that initial compromise happens, and it's going to happen, again, you can't, we have to give something. We have to give a little bit of a tactical giveaway. And that's, we know that they're going to break into some system somewhere, whether it's some end user computer, where it's done through social engineering, whether it's done through a vulnerability, some way, somehow they're going to get in. And once that happens, we can turn the tables on those guys, because now the advantage turns to us. What I mean by that is, now that attacker or attacking team has to have what we call really good tradecraft. They have to understand how to be very quiet in the system, in that organization, because they do not know and cannot know what we call indicators of compromise, what things we are monitoring on that network or in that organization that are signs of a compromise. And if they trip one of those, we can detect them, we can kick them out, what we try to do is frustrate them and raise the cost of that attack to that attacker so that they move on to somewhere else. Realize that the attribution piece of trying to figure out who these guys are is literally next to impossible. There are companies out there that's all they do is try to attribute who these cyber actors are. And it's very, very, very difficult. It's one of the hardest things to do in cyber. We don't do that piece of it because it just doesn't matter. Even if you find out who they are, they're probably not in the country. You're not going to extradite them. You're not going to be able to sue them in court. You're not going to be able to get your money back or any of those things. So why waste your time doing that? What you need to do is make yourself a hard target, so that way they don't want to mess with you. They have to put in too much effort to be able to get to the things that will be valuable to them. And so now we're going to take that. Now that takes that perfection paradigm, puts it on the attacker. Now he has to be perfect. He can't trip those IOCs, has to be perfect, so that way he loses. So that's the kind of shift that we do in a sense of Blueshift. But there's the part of the reasoning behind the naming of our company is twofold. One, Blueshift is obviously a space thing, right? So as things come to you, they tend to be blue shifted in the spectrum. And then we're also talking about the blue team, which is called the defending team. So we're trying to shift the advantage from the red adversaries to the blue team that we are the defenders. So we do this by concentrating on a lot of things that we call this pyramid of pain when I talk about these indicators, right? So, and I won't get too deep into what these things are because they don't matter to most people. They matter to us as techies, but for most people, what we need to realize is there's some things that are on this easy, trivial, and annoying scale. These things need to be done. They're what we call basic cyber hygiene. People need to be able to understand how to collect and monitor and do those things, and it should be automated, but they shouldn't forget about them. Again, it's highly automated for us because you have to do the basics well. You have to cover all your bases, but you should be focusing towards the top of this pyramid of pain, what we call TTPs. And so I won't get too in depth with that, but these are the things that attackers do once they get into an environment. And there's literally thousands of different things they can do. But we try to map those things against different attack groups, right? So there's different groups you can hear about depending on what they're doing. But all of them have some commonalities about things that they will do that we can detect and then respond to, or at least look into and investigate to try to figure out, okay, we've detected these TTPs across an organization. What is that? Is it something that actually is legitimate, or is it something that's nefarious that we need to investigate a little bit deeper? But the thing is, you have to watch. And the way we watch is in what's called dwell time. And again, I won't get too technical, but you get think about that these hacks don't happen instantaneously. It's not like, Jimmy clicked on a phishing email and all of a sudden everybody's ransomed. It's just not the way that technology works. It's not the way that cyber attacks work. What really happens is there's going to be an initial compromise, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of things that happen internally that I'll show you here in a minute. And then at the very end, they're going to take what's called an action on objective. Let's just talk about ransom for right now. So let's say they're going to ransom your screen. So that's when you detect it. So that time from a compromise to detection is what we call dwell time. And that's the time that we use to take our tactical advantage against our adversaries. That dwell time is a long time, usually. According to IBM, 287 days. It's a very, very long time for an adversary to be in your network. Realize that's an advantage for us, or advantage for a defender. The longer they spend, the more likelihood they're going to trip something we can detect and then kick them out. The reason they take this much time is because they try to be careful. They try to be quiet. They want to do that low and slow things. And there's other reasons too that I can get into I can literally talk I love this stuff and talk for hours, but the base understanding should be that they really need to try to be quiet. So that takes a long time, but they know this. So the bad guys are smart too. We have to realize this. We're not defending against dummies. The bad guys are talented, very talented in some cases. And so they know what we're trying to do. They know what all defenders are trying to do. So now they're starting to try to speed up their attacks. So they don't wait so long to do that kind of stuff because they know it's a problem. The problem they have with speeding up their attacks is speed is noisy. And what I mean by that is the faster they go, the more likelihood they're going to make a mistake and trip something that's noisy and have to do a lot of things of activity that can be detected. So we kind of got them on both fronts to look at that kind of stuff. So this is one of the things I talked about. Like, I don't expect anybody to know what any of this kind of stuff is, but these are kind of the phases of a cyber attack and what we use to look at. And when you look at this very last piece, which I call the action on objectives, that's where ransomware happens. That's where data theft happens and all that kind of stuff. So we have all this time ahead of there, all these tactics and all these things that are happening here. Those are all our time to play, right? The closer we can get to the beginning of this, of detecting and responding to things, the better it is for everybody else. But again, we have a good path of things that have to happen, that we know have to happen for a successful cyber attack to happen. The nice thing about what they talk about, we think in a term of kill chains, if you can stop any one of these things from happening, you effectively break the cycle of the attack and the attack stops. So that's what we try to do. Again, this is way beyond this kind of just set it and forget it cyber, which is that preventative piece. Set it and forget it cyber is something that should never have those words should not ever go together. Cyber is way too dynamic to just kind of set it and leave it. You really need to be on the forefront and just watching things all the time. It's the only way that you can actually win. And realize that it's not just about ransom anymore. When I said the bad guys are smart too, they're also smart about how they want to get paid. So it used to be, this kind of single extortion thing where they would encrypt your data, say, okay, send me some Bitcoin and we'll send you the decryption keys. Well, people got smart to that and they're like, okay, well, we're going to have our good backups. We're going to back up on a machine that's not connected to the network, whatever the case may be. They were able to recover from that encryption event? Well, the bad guy says, well, not in addition to just encrypting your data, I'm going to go ahead and steal it as well. And we knew, anybody who's been in cyber for a long time knew this was coming. But so not only do they encrypt your data, they also have a copy of it, so they can do other things as well. If you still decide not to pay, they will start to what's called denial of service use. So they use botnets, and I don't expect you to know all this stuff, but they use botnets, all these commandeered pieces of equipment on the internet to attack you so that you can't do your job, right? Your internet connection doesn't work, it's slow, your websites are slow, and they'll attack you over and over and over again until you pay. And let's say that doesn't work as well, they will actually open your data, go through your customers list, and start calling your customers. And we've seen this happen here recently, not where they're calling the customers saying, hey, do you know that so-and-so business was attacked by our hackers? We got your data, we have their data, we have your data. And they'll keep calling your customers over and over and over again to convince you to pay this quadruple extortion. And I guarantee there's more coming, right? So this is not the end of the list by any stretch of imagination. These guys are very crafty, and they will figure out ways to get paid by stealing your data from a cyber attack. Other thing that people need to realize that no matter your size and no matter what you do, you're not immune. And I've heard every one of these excuses from someone who's actually been hacked or had a data breach, whether a hacker, I don't have anything a hacker wants. I'm telling you, if you have a computer that's connected to the internet, you have something a hacker wants. Doesn't matter what's on the computer, just having it there and having them being able to control that computer as part of that botnet I talked about is valuable to hackers. People think that'll never happen to us. Well, that's, yeah, okay. But next, again, we have an antivirus from Firewall. We're fine. Again, we have those preventative set it and forget it technologies, and we're going to be okay. And that's not the case. And we're too small for anybody to pay attention to. Again, the hackers do not care how small you are. They know you have insurance. They know that you have something of value, and they will extort you for it. So there's no one of no size, from the entrepreneur to the enterprise, that is immune from the guise of cyber adversaries and what they want to do. And then it's another graphic I thought 72% of cyber attacks affect companies with less than 100 employees. So you can see that small businesses are valuable to attackers. Why is that? I mean, you just think about it. Most large corporations have dedicated security operations centers. They have dedicated staff. They have huge controls. They are a difficult target, even though they're large. Not all of them are difficult targets, but a lot of them are. People know that with the pandemic, smaller business, I didn't have the slide I wanted in there, but that's okay. But with the pandemic, smaller businesses had to change to a work from home model, which when you have to do things quickly like that, they know it's not secure. They're rubbing their hands together going, all right, we have a lot of things we can do now, especially for small business. So that everybody's a target, and realize that your size is not a limiting factor to if you're going to have attack brought against you. So how do we do this? I'll just talk briefly why we do what we do. So we're about data collection. The thing about defensive cyber when it comes to monitoring things for organizations, again, regardless of size, is that we can collect enough data to make sense out of things that happen. So our platform, we try to get data as low level as what we call network data. We want to watch the data goes in and out of the network. We want to look at the cloud things you're doing in the cloud. We want to look at, we have agents that go on all your computers and servers and things like that to send us data. And we basically get this huge collection all coming in all the time that we can see across the whole company to be able to detect anomalies and respond to those in ways that again will frustrate and get people out of the network. So and we do this for a huge variety of verticals, from retail to manufacturing facilities to governments to you name it, hospitals and banks and all kinds of stuff. So from an adversary perspective, everybody's valuable, so it really doesn't matter what vertical you're in. It sounds simple, what we do, but I will tell you that it's not easy. And just because the problem's a hard problem to solve. Nothing's 100%, right? So, but the way we think we have a pretty good stack of what to deliver and how we deliver it. We have a managed security operations center that's located here in South Florida. It's virtual, so our guys can actually work anywhere. We do have an office here in South Florida where we have a malware lab and other things like that. But that's where our analysts are at. Everybody's background checks. Several of our analysts have security clearances. these are the guys who are watching your stuff 24/7, right? These are the guys who are out there doing what they need to do to protect you and find all the things that are bad. So those are the guys that I rely on heavily. We do this network security piece. Again, we want to get down to that network level and watch data go back and forth. It doesn't miss anything. I can tell you that why looking at that level, why looking at network traffic, which is kind of an old school thing, is very, very important. It's not bypassable by someone. They can't stop you from doing it. And we can see all the devices that are in that network we're monitoring. A lot of devices that would be missed by traditional security products like EDRs and antivirus. And we've even the past 2 weeks, we've detected on new customers several compromises of devices that were non-PC based, like camera type systems and other things like that, control system type things that were commandeered that you just won't catch with just putting agents on things. We do the manage endpoint. So our agents go on all your endpoints. So we have little monitoring agents go on. Again, we're not trying to look for what like websites people go to, but they're basically sending us security telemetry so we can respond to that stuff. We offer some other interesting things too. We offer what's called Sigent Plus, which is a two-factor authentication around files and folders that we can enact from the SOC. So basically protecting data in case there is something bad that happens. We can basically lock down that data across the whole organization and not allow an external threat actor to either access or encrypt or exfiltrate that data. So they can't do those things. They can't encrypt it. They can't pull it out for exfiltration and then use that for extortion and things like that. So it works out very, very well. And we monitor that from our SOC. We offer some application whitelisting tools, which basically we can restrict what runs in an environment, only allow what is supposed to run. Again, helps lower the risk and things like that, but nothing is not bypassable. Everybody uses cloud, right? So we do monitor cloud, your Azure, your AWS, your Google Cloud Platform, your Office 365. Obviously, there's a lot of data there, so we want to watch that too. And our guys manage the response piece of that. So should we detect something, we help you figure out what it is, who started it, how it is, how we can get rid of it, how to keep that company safe while we're responding to that incident and basically get those guys out of the network. So this slide, I won't spend too much time. This is how the system works. It's very technical, but sorry about that. But we have sensors that go and we do things. Our SOC monitors things. We monitor remote people. We monitor cloud, like I talked about. But we can fit our solutions will go as small as a one-person office in a house to things that are 20,000 endpoints across 30 locations. It scales either way that way, and it's really managed to do it that way. So some of the advantages of having an XDR platform. So XDR stands for that extended detection and response. Again, that's us gathering that data from everywhere. One for us is, and the reason we're in the market, the reason we're a relatively new company in a pretty crowded space, but the problem is affordability. Every one of our competitors, everybody who has a system like this really gears it for the large enterprise, and it's priced accordingly like that. And that's a shame because the large enterprises can afford that kind of stuff, but it's the small enterprises and the entrepreneurs and the small, medium-sized businesses that really need that protection. So we purpose built our platform around the idea that we're going to target those small and medium-sized businesses because they're the ones who really can't afford it. They don't have the expertise. They can't stand up their own SOC. So we're going to give them that expertise with our platform. So it's and do it at a price that's affordable for them, so that it's not breaking the bank. It's very easy to install. I mean, you don't really need to have a whole lot of technical expertise because we handle that. It's kind of this white glove service that we provide. We give that kind of complete coverage. Again, we're not just an agent-based thing. We look at all the what I call all the things, and that's really important because if you don't look at try to see everything you can in an organization, those are the things that you can't see is where you're going to have the problem. We know that, right? So, and we rely a lot on intelligence. We keep in our threat intelligence some 500 million different indicators that are updated every hour. We are tracking, exploit attempts, which we track, known compromised infrastructure. We just track all kinds of this badness that's out on the internet that people use to attack, and we block those things off in our system to reduce that risk. Again, what we're trying to do is be able to reduce the risk and reduce the noise that we have to look at So that way we get the really juicy stuff that warrants an investigation in our security operations center. So the nice thing about the platform, and I'll stop here, we can answer questions, is the system, while it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that happens with it, the nice thing is, from a business perspective, you don't ever have to touch it. You don't have to log into it. You don't have to see it. The whole system is monitored, managed by our security operations center. All the updates are done by us. All the monitoring is done by us. Everything is done by us. So it's really a kind of plug in. I don't want to say set it and forget it, because it's really not what happens. We spend a lot of time maintaining it, but you do have this team of security professionals behind the product that are watching it and responding to things, and you don't have to have that expertise in house. We're happy to work with your IT staff or you individually, or however the case may be, to help you support that. But it is a 100% managed service. So that's what I have for today. We can discuss questions. I'll stop sharing my screen. Let's see. There we go. And we're back.
One of the more common questions that I'm seeing is the nexus between insurance and level of cyber security that you have, cost benefit. How does that relationship work and fit together? Tim, can you give the folks some insight?
Sure. So as James had indicated earlier on in the broadcast, that his cybersecurity this year, a year ago, it was a 1-page application. This year, it's a 10-page application. And so this directly correlates to how you can get insurance, at what level you can get insurance, and at what cost that insurance will be to you, the business owner. So I've been selling cybersecurity for about 13 years now. And in its infancy, you could get about 3 coverages at about $1 million a piece. There's now 6 different layers of coverage, each with 2 or 3 layers inside of that. And if you don't have the technology protecting your data, whether it's 1 record or 1 million records, you may not be able to even get the insurance if you don't have something like a Blueshift technology, because you got to protect that data. Everybody's talking about multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor is not 2-factor, it's at least 2-factor. So I have clients that have multi-factor authentication, and sometimes, depending on where they're trying to get into the system or what's being trying to access, it's 3-factor or maybe even 4. Depending on the level of security that they're looking at. So if you don't have the front end technology protecting your data with multi-factor authentication, with 256-bit encryption when you're sending emails and things like that, you may not even get it. And if you do, they're going to charge you triple what somebody that does have it.
So if the business doesn't have some sort of cybersecurity program in place, some sort of professional protection for their data, the insurance company may just refuse to give them insurance, period.
Correct.
Ballpark, and I know every business is different, and this is hard to get into, but I'm seeing questions on price.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at? Let's say I'm a small business. I'm just going to give you mine. Okay. I have a firm. I've got a headquarters. I've got 4 or 5 people, 5 people working at different remote locations. They have laptops. They've got phones. They access their work through both. And there's a lot of travel involved, especially for me. And we have professional large clients. Some are international companies, some are smaller, and it can be anything from a service, a law firm, a large manufacturer, and retailer. So, Tim, no, let's start with security first. So, what is that going to cost for an organization like that to have the Blueshift cybersecurity?
Yeah, Lou, this is Steve Nickel. Very good question. We price Blueshift based on the number of devices that we're managing. So it can be as little as $100 a month for up to 10 devices. Then it scales up from there. Generally, you're looking at somewhere in the area of $25 to $50 per year for each device that we manage. And a device is a server, a Windows PC. It could be a camera that's connected to your network. Anything that's
any entrance point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Any entrance point where the bad guys can hack and get in. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's priced per device. So it's gonna matter how many devices and different access points do you have. So the other question there are some skeptics out there today, let's say. How can they possibly do this when this is something that Fortune 500 companies struggled with? And now how can they offer it for that price? It can't possibly be real. So
yeah, one of the great things that Greg did when he built this system, by the way, he initially built this system for an intelligence agency. We can't tell you who it is, but it was incubated inside an agency, and then he's added on to it over time. But we primarily rely on open source modules to collect the data. And then once we
Can you explain that term for folks that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, open sources are cybersecurity tools that have been developed through collaboration, where the cost to license it is zero. So, for example, our agents are based on an open source initiative called WASA. They're incredibly secure. In fact, we can provide you with the source code if you want to inspect them to make sure they're secure. We use a layer called Saracata to do our IDPS engine. We use several layers of open source. And if I could give you an analogy, Blueshift is trying to be sort of like the Red Hat of managed cybersecurity. Red Hat is a famous open source company that delivers Linux to small, medium, and enterprise sized businesses on a worldwide basis. So what I'm trying to say is there's no need to spend big money and big license fees on the data collection pieces, because as Greg says, everybody does the same thing. Where we put our effort into the platform is not in collecting the data, but in analyzing and filtering the data so that our SOC team can be extremely productive in detecting these advanced threats.
Okay, so the other thing so the other one that I'm hearing is, well, I've got anti-malware, I've got McAfee, I've got what is that company that you see
Kaspersky.
on Fox News all the time?
Oh, PCmatic.
Yeah, so I'm protected.
Yeah, good luck. As Greg was saying, that you need those things. You need antivirus software, or those solutions have evolved into what's called EDR, endpoint detection and response. But the endpoint is only one way that the hackers can get in. They can get in through any devices that are connected to your network, through social engineering attacks, through these zero-day attacks that Greg talks about. And so if you rely primarily on preventive layers, which are, we refer to as antivirus, firewalls, EDR, you're going to lose, right? So you have to invest in defensive cyber, which basically assumes there's going to be a successful intrusion. But the way you're going to win is by preventing that intrusion from turning into a serious cyber incident. And that's what companies like Blueshift do for the SMB customer.
Gotcha. So they're not protected basically by that.
The problem is every data breach that's ever happened that you've since the beginning of time, they all had firewalls, they all had antivirus, every single one, bar none. There's no exception to that. So it's just not enough, right? Again, you need to do some basics, and that's part of the basics. So you shouldn't ride a motorcycle without a helmet, right? Those sorts of types of things, but it doesn't preclude you from being attacked. And we've seen that's why we see the plethora of things we see today, is because people want that set it and forget it. And that's what AV kind of is, and firewalls kind of are, is that set it and forget it, and let's not worry about cyber anymore. And that's just the adversaries know this, and they 100% take advantage of that. So
people being lackadaisical about the security is why it's easy for these hackers to get in. And so you have to have a more robust defense now because they're much more sophisticated about what they do. And it's evolved from just, well, I'm going to steal your data, I'm going to ransom your data, to now just, I'm just going to go in and destroy your data just because, right?
Well, that's a difference between what we're used to talking about is cyber criminals, right? They're motivated financially, right? So they're doing things to recoup, to initiate a payout of some sort. Very different than cyber warfare, right? Which you're going to hear a lot about with what's going on in Ukraine and things like that. So cyber warfare is very, very different. When they bring tanks into a country, they don't do that to come steal things. They do that to destroy things. And on the cyber side, it's no different. When nation states when you start talking about cyber war, those adversaries are going to destroy things. They're going to you're not getting your data back. They're looking to do damage. Again, but a good defense against any of those things, again, doesn't matter to us. That good defense in the very beginning can save you a lot of trouble on the back end, right? The sooner that you detect and respond to something, the better off you're going to be. If you can catch things quickly, they just turn into minor inconveniences. If you don't catch them quickly, they evolve into something that could be a data destruction event, a data theft event, or a ransomware event, which are a pain in the butt to deal with. Right. And your insurance company is not going to like you either.
Insurance won't like you anymore. Tim will still like you. He's fairly easygoing. He'll still like you. All right, we're trying to keep these things under 45 minutes. We're just about out of time. I want a chance for James and then Tim to remind you who they are, who they represent, and how they can help you on this front. James?
Well, yes, once again, I like the participants on this Zoom call or webinar. I am a small to medium-sized business located in Southern California. I do work with clients' data, which is something that I need to protect. And I kept on thinking as you guys were talking about that one slide you put up there, Greg, about, well, hey, I'm too small. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be, I don't have to worry about it. I have this, I have that. Well, I really don't think that's the case anymore. Maybe that might have been the case a while back, but like you said, the more vulnerable you are, the easier to target you are, and sometimes these criminals want to be as lazy as they possibly could be. If they can find somebody who's very vulnerable, they're going to take advantage of that, and they're going to take advantage of you. And that's the real key here. And so if you are in a business that deals with any sort of data, whatever it might be, and for that matter, nowadays, I mean, there's criminals out there that all they want to do is destroy your data. They just want to destroy you. They're not looking to get any money from you. They want to cripple your infrastructure because they know that is the backbone of our country is the small business. And so if they cripple your infrastructure one business at a time, it's going to cripple our country. So we know that. And so the reality is this, I am absolutely 100% convinced that it's necessary to be protected. I mentioned earlier that my application for cyber insurance this past year is 10 pages versus 1 page the previous year, which Tim shared. And the bottom line is this, if you want to get protected, if you want to be able to get Fortune 500 protection on a small to medium-sized business budget, then there's no better organization than Blueshift. And because of that, I have been able to partner with them, and I'm very capable of helping you obtain this technology. And so if you'd like to reach out to me, Lou, you can provide all my contact information to whomever it is you need to, and let them reach out to me, and I'll get things taken care of for them.
Okay. And Tim?
Yeah, and again, I'm Tim, and I'm a cyber liability protection specialist over here at Hub International. And so what happens is if everything fails and everything just goes catastrophic, the insurance that you get on the back end actually keeps you in business, actually is able to pay to recover your data and get you back up and back on your feet and still selling stuff. Because what people don't realize is you're really, really good at your business. I'm really, really good at my business. The cyber criminals are really, really good at being cyber criminals. So just think as good as you are at your business and you know the ins and outs of it, yeah, those cyber liability, those cyber criminal dudes, they know just as much about getting in, hacking your data, destroying it, and making sure that you don't get back in business. And that's where me and Blueshift come in. Me and James, Greg, Steve, we're on your side. We're the ones protecting your butt.
All right. Well, thank you folks for participating. Again, this is a very important subject. This is available if you have other people who you know that you talk about and they want to see this information. This, of course, will be available at the YouTube channel for IE Business Daily. And honestly, that's where a lot of the views come from of these types of webinars that we do for IE Business Daily. So thanks for participating again. James, Tim, everybody, thank you so much for being here, and a special thanks, of course, to the folks at Blueshift, Steve Nickel, and also Greg. Thank you very much. It's been great information. I hope it was useful for everybody who participated, and we will all see each other soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks so
Excellent.
much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Okay.